I am joined by my guest, Josh Findlater from Reapit. How you doing, Josh?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Minty. Very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very well indeed. We were sort of just catching up off camera there, wondering what it was we were going to talk about. There's an awful lot that's been going on at Reapit and PayProp behind the scenes in terms of the great advances that you guys have been making to sort of help agents. But that's not where we're going to start. So we're going to start somewhere slightly out of focus. The industry at the moment is absolutely kind of, it feels like it's holding its breath, waiting to see who our next kind of collection of prime ministers and housing ministers are going to be. So as we film this in sort of mid to late May, we've got a Labour leadership contest very much in it coming up down the line there. And we've just come off the back of renters' rights changes as well. And we've got some big things going on in the industry in general, just in terms of AI and so on. So I guess what I'm saying is the world is ever changing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're seeing huge amounts of change in the property industry at the moment, and it's being impacted by macroeconomic elements like a change in government. Who knows who the next housing minister will be? Who knows if they'll last more than 3 days in the job? Uh, AI is constantly evolving and progressing at a rate of knots. We on the front line are obviously trying to get it out to everybody as quickly as possible, as are all of our competitors. It's huge in terms of what can be delivered, but how it's utilized is still probably underwhelming from estate agents, and we need to see that improve as well. And as we were talking about before we jumped on the recording, still an element of needing to keep it human in the property industry, and the human intelligence as well as the
Yes.
artificial intelligence.
Mu- much underrated human intelligence because I suppose that this, like, if you look at it at this moment in time, and I suppose it could be said of any particular moment in time, we probably said this about things like 2008 when we had the credit crunch. You've got other key moments like Brexit and COVID. Remember those two guys, Brexit and COVID?
Brexit was the reason I left estate agency and became a supplier. That, that was the triggering event for me.
I'm not sure what kind of a lifeboat that was, but it's interesting that those are key moments in life where you can see, look, there's a bit of political change happening, and there's just general uncertainty. And I think that agents as a whole always like to present a very kind of, we've got this together, we know what it means face when they're facing their public. So the minute something happens in the news and or the chancellor will, unveil a new budget or whatever, there's a load of estate agents facing the camera going, and this is what it means to our homeowners in Reading this week. And we are meant to be that voice of calm. Could we forgive them for being a little bit overwhelmed at the moment?
Oh, for sure. There's so much going on, and speculation is bad for the market. That's comes as no shock to anybody. Interest rates now, are they going to climb again because of what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz? Try and keep petrol prices and things like that down and inflation down. But of course, it's going to mean that your interest rate on your mortgages go up and less people buy. There's so much constantly going on, and that's just in terms of politics and world politics and economics, without all of the so-called AI experts that are constantly popping up on my LinkedIn feed telling me that they are the next thing in AI, only to be outdone by the next progression released 2 weeks later.
So that's interesting that you say that because there is that sense that
Oh,
things are
Minty, I've lost
moving
your voice. I
so.
can't hear you.
Sorry,
Oh, there you go. I lost you for a second there. You were
can you hear
muted.
me now?
I can now, yeah.
Edit this bit. Edit
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 this bit.
all of it. Give him something to say. One.
Black screen.
Um, what was I gonna say? What was I gonna say? I was gonna say.
Straight off
So there is
Hormuz.
that sense,
What
isn't there?
pollution?
Particularly when it comes to AI, that things are moving so quickly that it's a bit of a race to see who's going to sort of get to the top first. But the things are changing so quickly. I think agents find that very much. We risk really some agents just sitting back going, yeah, I'm just going to wait till these guys have got it out their system, and I'll come to the party much later on down the line, rather than sort of be in this kind of almost beta testing mode where we're all jumping on it as it's kind of evolving. You guys at Reapit have taken a very measured approach to it. Um, Tell us what goes on behind the scenes.
Oh, it's I think the same behind the scenes for everybody, which is there is a lot of investment and development into AI. There's also an element of education around it, and not only teaching the agents that we speak to, but learning internally because it is developing so quickly about what it can and can't do. I'm still a big believer that the property industry is a people's business, and I think there's going to be great advancements with AI. I think it's going to take away a lot of the admin overhead. Uh, but as I was saying to you earlier, it's not going to be able to walk into a valuation, build up that relationship with your landlord, and get them to put pen to paper. What it will hopefully be able to do is arm you to go into that discussion a little bit better and a little bit more confident and be more aware of what's going on in both the landlord and in the world of the local property market and what the demand looks like from your own database, really utilizing your own data to make you stronger at closing your business and closing those valuations. That said, it's still going to be a people's business. If you show up to this valuation, dirty shoes, shirt untucked, tie halfway down your neck, basically like Simon Whale would, you are going to struggle to win that valuation, I think.
I would pay good money to see Simon Whale out on a valuation, but I think you're right, given the fact that we keep calling this a people, it's a people business. At its core, being a people business means that they must buy into you, they must trust you. So trust is a huge element, and I think that in the age of AI, I think what that does is it only makes us question who we can trust because we're seeing some wonderful things all the time. So you'll see, I mean, I see videos on online on social media that look very genuine, but clearly are just AI playing, messing with my head. We don't appreciate it sometimes. That's the world my kids are growing up in, and they genuinely don't know what to trust. And so when it comes to trust in a people business, it's only the humans that can get that across, right?
Absolutely that. I mean, and I'm as much of a sucker as anybody else. I've looked at AI videos, shared them with my wife, and then she's looked at it and gone, "That's not really happened, though, has it, Josh? That's an AI video." And I've not been able to immediately tell, which in one sense is amazing, and in another sense very very scary because you're starting to have to distrust everything you see. And I know the old adage of don't believe everything you read, but now it's you genuinely can't believe the things that you see or even hear at times. AI's got so good at that. I think that's going to be interesting for properties when it comes to property listings, especially. But we will never be able to move away from that, from the trust that humans develop human to human, and there is an inherent distrust of a lot of AI naturally.
As rightly there should be. Going back to that other topic that people are probably sick to death of talking about, and we all try to look at our glass and our cup as being half full rather than half empty. So when we get a challenge like the Renters' Rights Act thrown at us, all the pundits, including you guys, are out the traps, out there talking to agents, trying to sort of get them to calm down a little bit about it, not get too overwhelmed about the impending changes, but also try and sort of work out how they can leverage it as an opportunity rather than as something that's just a massive liability and a big shakeup. How successful has that been? We've seen lots of suppliers kind of doing that. Has the response been good?
It's been a mixed bag, frankly. There's still agents that are reaching out to us now saying, I've just had to implement all of this Renters' Rights Act stuff. I've still got a loads of assured short hold tenancies. How do I move them on to APTs now? How do I get rid of tenants that I don't want to be in there now that we've banned Section 21? Yada yada. Preaching to the choir with those that will watch this. But it's shocking how many agents are still not fully up to speed. And there's going to be some hefty fines that come out, and councils have been given £60 million to go hand out these fines and
Yeah.
crack down pretty quickly on it. Uh, and it's 7 grand for your first offence, and then it's 40 grand potentially for your second one. So there was a conversation I had, and I won't say the name of the agent for reasons that have become fairly clear. But I had a conversation yesterday with an agent and was having a chat to them about have they sent out the documentation for the Renters' Right Act, which they have to do for every single one of their active tenancies. And they went, yeah, we pinged the link out to everybody. Uh, and I had to go, well, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
The link doesn't qualify. You either need to send them the PDF or you need to post them the PDF, and you need to be able to prove you've done that, more importantly. Like, you can do all of the best things and the best practices. If you can't prove it when the council come knocking, you're picking up that fine. So this agent was then essentially arguing with me, be going, well, the link leads to the PDF, so surely that's okay. So I'm not writing the rules here. I'm just here to advise
But
you
it's
on
interesting that
how.
you say that because there are so many landlords in the landlord forums and agents as well. So if you follow these things online, you will see lots of people have made assumptions because it's a very basic document that they gave us to serve. And if
Yeah,
you read it, it'll say, look, you just need to make sure this gets in front of your, but you also need to do that within the context of your original tenancy agreement. So for instance, if it says that you can't serve notices by email, then you need to get them a copy of it in person. This whole notion of sending somebody a link and just download it, well, that you can be forgiven. It's not that silly, if you like,
no,
but it,
the point they made was what's the difference between clicking the link or clicking the attachment in an
yeah.
email, which I think is a fair assessment, but those aren't the rules that we're playing within. And you've got to send the PDF, I'm afraid.
It's interesting. I mean, you guys are heavily involved, and Reapit and PayProp have beautiful things in common, as they were two separate brands at some point. But I know you all live under one roof now. But what you always had in common is
Using our tagline as well. I love that. We should get you in the marketing team.
you can have that one for free, guys.
Yeah.
But I think it's always been that way. Reapit's been very, because it has been one of the only systems around that can handle both top end sales really, really well, and also handle the accounting side of and the admin side of lettings really well. And for a long time, the industry has had to put up with two separate CRM systems to do that. Reapit was well known as being one of the only ones that could do it fairly well every time. So I think as a result of that, it's probably fair to say a lot of your clientele that you've got on board at the moment are some of the biggest names in lettings and management in the UK and also PayProp as well. So you must be dealing with agents who are facing sort of a changing face of the business. I heard it said the other day that lettings and management has become less about just collecting rents and passing them on. We've now become almost outsourced compliance businesses for landlords. Is that the sense that you're getting that it's and if so, do you think that makes it any less fun for agents to be involved in it, if it ever was fun?
If anything, and this is probably more of an indictment on me, I think it's probably more fun. I have, from back in my agency days, all of that 15 years ago, when I first started out, I was always of the point of view that we are the professionals. Yeah, estate agents get a bad rep in the public. We know that. But part of the reason they get a bad rep is because they don't get treated like the professionals in the industry. They get seen as rent collectors, for instance. Uh, with this shifting focus towards compliance, I think it gives more integrity, especially to, I think we'll start to see a separation of the wheat from the chaff in agency. It is a proper profession in a proper industry and should be treated as such. Compliance is going to be a big element of that, and staying compliant is a big element of that. And lots of what I do in the conversations I have, and the same for my team, is essentially consultation and being quite consultative on, are you doing this? We've got a whole market view. We can advise you what some of the best are doing. Equally, if you're doing something that's a bit niche, we have enough experience in the industry to be able to help you and work around that. But most importantly, making sure that you remain compliant so that you don't suddenly pick up a massive fee or damage your integrity in your local market. There's a whole sweep of benefits to this legislative change. And one of them is also the opportunities it presents in developing more revenue. We should be going to all of our landlords now and going, do you really want to take on this risk? Or do you want to hire me to mitigate it for you? Let's move you from let only onto managed. I'll make sure that you never see one of these fines ever again. It's my job to be ahead of this. I will read Property Industry Eye every single day, so you don't have to, Mr. Landlord. And that's what we should be aiming for.
Do you know what? I'm just listening to this. I'd pay you to read Property Industry Eye for me every day. Just send me the bits that are relevant, okay? Cut through the adverts and tell me what's really happening.
I wouldn't know anything about adverts on Property Industry Eye. No, nothing whatsoever, honest.
There is a place for an accountable press in our industry, but it's interesting what you're saying because that's just the point. I think it can be. It's as overwhelming, and we really shouldn't underestimate this. It is as overwhelming, if not more overwhelming, for an average landlord than it is for an agent because we do read the industry press. We have been to conferences. We have listened to guys like you, and I've listened to Neil Cobbold up on stage um, and very, very smooth, very, very pertinent, lots and lots of wisdom that you're imparting on people. But the point is, as an agent, I've had the chance to imbibe that a little bit. Members of the public, and particularly landlords, less so. And so there is that ability for them to be very scared at this point.
Absolutely, and the agent in me and the sales director in me sort of gets a glimmer in my eye when I hear that fear, because it's a selling motivation. We should be going out to every landlord that's currently using Open Rent or Gumtree, or frankly just not using a professional agency, and be like, you should be afraid. If you miss this, it is a big fine. If you miss this document, it is a big fine. Have all those landlords sent out the one pager that we were talking about earlier about the Renters' Right Act? I guarantee you they haven't. I guarantee you there are accidental landlords who have not sent it, not out of laziness or maliciousness, but out of ignorance. Um, there will be rogue landlords that this act is designed to trip up, and hopefully will trip up, because we don't want rogue landlords in the industry. But there will be plenty of innocent bystanders who get caught up in this as well, who have, and I say innocent very much in inverted commas because ignorance isn't an excuse, but there will be a lot of ignorant, accidental landlords who are about to find the sharp end of the council's stick, I think. All agents should be reaching out to everybody they can, and hopefully eating into that huge share which is on Open Rent, which every agent should consider their real competitor in this market. I mean, it holds far more landlords than any of their local competitors will do.
Interesting. Let me ask you a question. For somebody who got out then, just before all of this kicked off, you chose to jump out of the agent boat into a supplier boat, at Brexit. Um, is there a part of you that misses day-to-day agency, or do you feel like because I suppose you spend so much time with quality agents these days, as your clients that you feel like you still got one foot in it, I suppose.
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is I left the property industry for 1 year directly after Brexit, and after 12 months was lusting to be back in it. I couldn't resist, so I dare say I'm going to be in this industry for the rest of my life. God knows what I've done to deserve that. Uh, but I miss agency every single day. I loved working at the agents I worked at. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed the market. It's high pressure. It's a lot of stress, but it's also a lot of reward. If you give someone the keys to their dream home on that completion day, there's very few better feelings than that. Equally, you have to deal with everything else in the conveyancing process, which can drive you nuts. Um, but yeah, I miss it loads. But I enjoy being a supplier as well because, like you say, I get to speak to many, many more agents, and I haven't got to be hiding keys from them, pretending that I've not got them on me when they're in my glove box.
You know, what's interesting listening to you talk about it that way, and a lot of people do, they sort of say, oh, well, I reluctantly fell into agency in the first place, but then people who've really still got a passion for it and find themselves kind of back in it time and time again. Just when I thought I was out, they drag me back in. That sort of Godfather moment, where you're working in it. I think it's probably fair to say that the industry as a whole today looks very different to how it was sort of 20 years ago when I mean I started out 30 years ago, would you believe it?
And look, a
But
day over 21.
right, right. It was my first. My son is sitting his GCSEs today, and it was my first job during my GCSE period. So I think I was about 16 when I took it up. Um, when you look at how far we've come and sort of the changes that have been made, what are the sort of things about this industry now and the people that you spend time with that make your heart go a little bit fuzzy and warm? Like, what's the good stuff? Because
Oh,
we spend lots of time concentrating on the bad sides of things, but
yeah.
there's plenty of good. Give us some good news.
Oh, there's loads of good stuff out there. I think we're seeing more and more agents get ALA and NAEA registered through Property Mark. I think the work that Property Mark are doing has been fantastic for helping professionalize the industry. We've seen so much more collaboration now. Agents are actually not just beating each other up and, like I say, jokingly hiding keys away from one another.
Yeah.
Honestly, I never did that. Honest. Uh, we're seeing collaboration. Like you'll go to some of these conferences, you'll go to events, and you're rubbing shoulders with some of the best in the business from multiple different brands, and there isn't a snarky hoping that they'll fail. We're starting to see a shift where everyone wants to see everyone succeed in this industry because the, the rogue agents are dying out pretty quickly. This sort of renters' right act stuff is designed to make the industry more professional, as I've said, and property market assisting that, which means that when you go to these events, when you meet other agents, you're having a good time with people who just want to deliver a really good job. And like everyone wants to be delivering the keys on the completion day to someone who's bought their dream house. And we're seeing more of that. We've still got challenges within the industry. We're starting to see agents club together and voice against the problems that they have with conveyancing, for instance, and the fact that conveyancing seems to have got longer, not quicker, despite the fact there's been multiple advancements in like AI and agents working together to try and tackle that problem rather than leaving a comment on a property industry I post complaining about it.
There does seem to be less of that kind of snarking at each other and more helping, and it's nice to get a shout out to our good friends at Property Mart. So given that, music to their ears, and I think as we move closer to the prospects of an industry that might one day become regulated, there are some advantages, isn't there? So you see people that are raising professional standards, if you like, and making it almost normal, things like training, making training something that is a necessity rather than something which is just a nice to have every 3 years, to get a break from the office. That is becoming a lot more standardized, and you can sort of see a vision of the future where regulation might bring those things in and say they're not just something you should be doing, they're things you have to do, right?
And this might be controversial for the audience, but I'm fully in favour of that. It blows my mind that at the age of 21, I was in Chelsea and Kensington, so the houses are allowed to go walk around by myself, worth 7.5 million to 12 million pounds, and someone was trusting me to guide them through that process with very little qualification or training.
Yeah.
That to me is mental and probably needs to be regulated so that fine you can walk into those houses and show people around, but it's no longer a case of just buyer beware because 21-year-old Josh doesn't really know what he's talking about. Uh, and your surveyor will pick it up for you anyways. It should be more advisory, and with more and more compliance in the lettings industry specifically, we're going to have to become experts in the field and it again professionalize and ideally get qualified. And I'm fully on board with the idea of right, let's make it so that you almost have that American model where, and I don't mean that in sort of the individual real estate, I mean the you've got to be qualified to be able to sell property.
So in America, I think they almost have like a broker's license. They're licensed, aren't
Yeah.
they? Licensed to sell. I like that. I
License to
could
sell.
I could mark it on the back of that. But I think it's people like if you've ever heard Claire Yates talk, she talks about that massive responsibility that we have when we've got a set of keys to a member of the public's house. And traditionally in agency, I'm just thinking as you were telling your story. I was thinking about the people that I've sent along to do viewings in the past. Viewings have been the sort of kind of lowest job on the chain. You would give it to sort of a junior to do. It was the first one of the first jobs I had in agency was showing people around houses. When you
Yeah.
think about it, I knew nothing about it. So we send in our most trained people to win the instruction. Once we've got it, we then hand it over to somebody who was emptying the bins yesterday, but today is doing a viewing. It's
And
interesting, isn't it?
an agent will always, and I would say rightly, say that our job is not just opening a door and the house sells itself. That's a public view of us that's incorrect. But it's hard
Yeah.
to argue that's the case when you're letting the Saturday kid walk around and open doors for you. Like we don't do ourselves favors in that in that instance.
No, absolutely. So it's interesting. So young Josh would prefer. I suppose that would also give you then as a new entrant to the property market. So if you were starting out again in the industry and you were being trained tomorrow, you feel trained. You feel like you've had, if you had to pass some sort of qualification, you'd actually feel like you are. It's like doctors. They're not just winging it. They've trained
Hope
for it,
not.
right?
Exactly, and it would empower agents as well. And I also think there's a benefit that doesn't really get brought up, and the reason it doesn't get brought up is perhaps because it's not that significant. But there's an element to standardizing training that would help a lot of agents out. In plenty of agents I've spoken to hark back to when they started, they were given a yellow pages and a few brochures of properties and a phone and said, right, there you go, crack on. Let's see if you sink or swim.
Yeah.
Uh, that doesn't seem like it's setting people up for success, in my opinion. So if there was a standardized qualification, that would imply that there'd be a standardized training that everyone would start to get, and we'd lift the floor up on the quality across the entire industry.
So I asked you originally there about how the industry's changed from and you gave your answer almost from an agent's point of view. Now I just want you
Oh,
to
I'm
look
still an agent at
inwardly
heart.
because we promised we wouldn't talk about Reapit and PayProp too much, but I've got a feeling that both of us will get fired if we don't. So just to sort of you're working for one of the biggest and most well trusted CRMs in the industry, and obviously, whoever doesn't use PayProp to pay their rents at the moment, where have you been, guys? What are you doing? What are you doing? But given that it's such a safe pair of hands, what's it like then from your point of view, working for one of the sort of most progressive suppliers who are looking to try and add as much value as possible? And you sometimes walk a very interesting tightrope between sort of being that friendly face of the business, sort of telling agents what they could and might do, but also supporting them through their journeys. Is it genuinely sort of exciting to be in it at the moment with all these changes going on?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
can you give us a glimpse of what the future might look like?
Oh, I can pull back the curtain a little bit, I suspect, but I will be careful on how much just
Okay,
what I
okay.
release.
This will be embargoed. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, otherwise, marketing will come after me if I beat them to the punch. Uh, it's genuinely exciting, and I personally could not work for a company nor a product that I didn't believe was helping out in the industry. I still love agency. I am still an agent at heart. I do the front facing consultative part with many agents because the advice I'm giving I genuinely believe in. Um, it's very easy for me to turn around and say use Reapit and use PayProp, not only because it's my job, but because I genuinely believe they're the best in class, and make estate agents' lives significantly easier, especially with PayProp on the letting side and all the new compliance restrictions. Uh, if you're not using it, where are you guys? But in terms of what's coming up in the future, which I think is exciting, obviously there's a huge focus on AI at the moment, and you may have seen a countdown on the Reapit website for a large AI release, which is known as Ray or Reapit AI. So I will be careful for how much of that I release before the official launch of it because I'd quite like to keep my job. But there will be things like elements that I think people expect to see, like AI generated property descriptions. There'll be predictive lead scoring, so sales teams can automatically follow up. There'll be workflow automations for maintenance. There'll be some real-time insights and recommendations based on data that we've got within Reapit's database. And one of the reasons I'm so proud to work for Reapit is our AI is ring fenced around the property industry and the data that we've got. So we are just using data that we know about. We're not using OpenAI.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is brilliant. I love it, but it's not designed for estate agents. It's designed for mass market. It's not an OpenAI that people can plug into. Equally, I think whilst AI will be brilliant, there is an element around data security and cybersecurity that people should seriously consider when they're making decisions around AI. If you use OpenAI, everything you plug in is forever available to the rest of the network on OpenAI. That that doesn't at the moment present much of a threat or a problem to anybody, but it doesn't mean that it won't
Yeah.
in the near future. And if you've plugged in all of your landlords and all of your sellers and all of that data, if you're an estate agent, your business valuation is really built on three things. One of which is your portfolio, your managed portfolio. One of which is a little bit more intangible, but it's your brand. And the third one is your data. And it's vitally important. And you might be giving that away if you're not careful. So I'm super proud of what Reapit have done. Yes, it took us a little bit longer because we had to ring fence it all ourselves and we had to make sure that everything was locked down tighter than Fort Knox. But it's the right thing to do for the industry because it means that we're protecting your data and your therefore your business.
See, this stuff is good stuff, and we didn't even rehearse it. This.
Because I genuinely believe it. It's easy when you
Well,
believe it.
it is, and then I can wrap up this conversation by saying go and talk to somebody. When you're talking to suppliers, I often say this, try and talk to somebody who genuinely understands your job as an estate agent as well. And I think, Josh, you represent one of the few people that I come across who've walked in both sets of shoes for a start. And that you do have that integrity to only sort of really want to talk about or sell things that you feel that will add value and that will be genuinely helpful. And that's got to be commended. And he happens to be a nice guy as well. So um,
So I'm told.
I would highly recommend coming to a conference season near you. The Reapit guys are out there on Force. You will always see them. Go and check out the latest season of merch that they're going to be having there. I've lost count of exactly how many water cups I've got at home with Reapit logos on it. Um,
I don't tell marketing that I keep giving them away to you. That's all I'll say.
he always says these are not coming home with me. They must all go today. But genuinely, they're lovely people. Stop by, meet them, meet the rest of the team as well, and genuinely have a chat with people that can help you. I think as Josh said earlier, I think it's very important that we're collaborating more, and sometimes that just means it all starts with just a little conversation, and that opens up avenues, doesn't it?
Conversation, ideally over a cold pint. It's best way forward.
There you go. Drink responsibly, everybody, and have fun in conference season because that's about to start up again. It seems like it starts earlier this year, but it'll kick off, I think, formally with say something like Property Mark One in June, and you've got the Kerfuffle conference at some point in July, and then as we
Kerfuffle
roll
runs around.
towards Christmas, there's more and more, isn't there?
Yeah, it picks up quite a lot. So from the summer months and then through till really like November when you get into the end of the award ceremonies, if we're including those in the conference world. And of course, Women in Estate Agencies, not a conference, is towards the tail end of the year as well. So yeah, it starts. Property Mark One's really the big kickoff, and then we have loads all the way through to November. And Reapit themselves will be doing a bit of a roadshow as well, and going across the country with multiple roadshows and speaking to customers, prospects, both alike, and getting out there to discuss all things AI and Reapit and PayProp.
Well, catch them out there on the road. Good luck with that. Really nice catching up with you, Josh. Thank you very
Likewise.
much.
Cheers, Minty.
Thank you.